They thought it was just another emergency. A woman in distress, a failing heart, a race against time. But within minutes, nurses began collapsing. Doctors gasped for breath. And the ER turned into a scene straight out of a nightmare. Her touch was deadly. Her blood, lethal. To this day, no one can fully explain what happened inside that room. Some blame science. Others say it was something much darker. This is the true story of Gloria Ramirez. The woman the media called the toxic lady. But the truth? It's far stranger than anything they ever reported. You are watching True Crimes Now. Make sure you hit the subscribe button to follow up on more true crimes and horror stories. You won't want to miss what comes next. Riverside General Hospital was like any other mid-sized California facility in the early 90s. Overworked. Understaffed. Lives rushing in and out like tidewater. But on February 19, 1994, something arrived that didn't leave. Not really. They called her the toxic lady. But her name was Gloria. She was 31 years old. A mother. A fighter. But that night, Gloria Cecilia Ramirez was dying. The paramedics didn't know what exactly had gone wrong, just that she had collapsed at home, gasping, her chest convulsing in pain. Her body was thin, almost skeletal. The cancer had already ravaged her from within. When they lifted her onto the gurney, they noticed something odd. Her skin had a faint sheen, like oil slick on water. Her breath smelled strange. Sharp. Not just sick sweet like rot or infection. Something chemical. But there was no time to think. Gloria needed help. And fast. The ER was already buzzing that night. Flu season. Car crash victims. A stabbing. Nurse Susan Kane barely looked up from her chart when the gurney rolled in. Just another body on the brink. Vitals, someone called. Low BP. She's tacky, pulse 160. GCS 8. Ramirez was conscious, barely. Her eyes darted, wild and scared. She tried to speak, but it came out a wet whisper. Like her lungs were drowning. Kane placed an oxygen mask over her face. Something in her gut twisted. Is it just me, or is she sweating Vaseline? Another nurse asked, half joking. No one laughed. They gave her sedatives. Tried to bring her heart rate down. But nothing worked. Then, flatline. Clear. The crash cart rolled in. They prepped the defibrillator. Nurse Julie Gorczynski held Ramirez's arm while Dr. Ochoa applied the paddles. But just before the jolt, Gorczynski squinted down. Wait. What's in her blood? She was drawing a syringe, routine. But instead of the normal dark red, Ramirez's blood was different. Thick. Discolored. Floating inside the vial were strange yellowish crystals, like powdered plastic. And then came the smell. It wasn't like anything they'd smelled before. Not blood. Not medicine. Not sickness. It was chemical. Sharp. Like ammonia mixed with garlic and metal. Some said it burned their nostrils. Others said it hit them like a wave of heat. Like something wrong. Kane staggered back first. My face burns, she mumbled. Then collapsed. One nurse screamed. Gorczynski dropped the syringe and leaned against the wall, dizzy. Her vision tunneled. She fell hard, convulsing. Within minutes, 5 ER staff were on the floor. Some twitching. Some choking. One, unconscious. The ER went into lockdown. A skeleton crew remained behind to keep Ramirez alive. But even they were shaking. They couldn't explain it. No known chemical exposure. No signs of gas leaks. And yet, everyone near Gloria fell sick. At 8:50 p.m., she was gone. Her time of death was scribbled into the chart. But the story wasn't over. Not even close. Gloria's body was sealed. Hazmat protocols. Autopsy delayed. And in the days that followed, rumors began to spread like wildfire. Was it a chemical weapon? A lab accident? Radiation? Or something stranger? No one could explain the crystals. Or why a healthy young doctor like Julie Gorczynski needed 2 weeks in intensive care. Or why Ramirez's internal organs turned up mysteriously degraded, or, in some cases, missing. But they were about to find a theory. One that sounded more like science fiction than science fact. And it started with something you could buy in any hardware store. Dimethyl sulfoxide. A solvent. A pain reliever. Harmless, until it wasn't. The hospital had never seen anything like it. In the aftermath, the ER was shut down. Sealed off. Investigators in hazmat suits walked the corridors like it was Chernobyl. Air samples were taken. Floors were scrubbed. Monitors, IVs, anything that had come near Gloria Ramirez, was quarantined or destroyed. The press caught wind almost instantly. Toxic woman causes mass fainting at California hospital. Radio stations called it chemical warfare. Tabloids whispered about alien viruses. But inside Riverside General, no one was laughing. 5 medical workers had collapsed. 1 was in intensive care. The rest complained of headaches, nausea, burning sensations on their skin, just from being in the same room. But Gloria herself was gone. Declared dead just 45 minutes after arriving, her body was placed in a sealed aluminum casket. No embalming. No funeral. Just cold silence and an ever-growing list of questions. Why did her blood contain crystals? Why did it smell like ammonia and garlic? What was happening inside her body, and why did everyone who got too close suffer the consequences? They needed answers. Fast. A team from the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory was called in. These weren't your average health inspectors. These were the same scientists who handled nuclear materials and biological threats for the government. If something unnatural had happened, they were the ones who could trace it. And slowly, through interviews, chemical analysis, and an autopsy carried out under strict hazmat conditions, a strange theory began to form. The key wasn't what the hospital had done. It was what Gloria had done before she ever arrived. One small clue, almost overlooked, unlocked the entire chain. A jar. Half empty. Found under her bathroom sink during a routine sweep of her home. The label read, DMSO. Dimethyl sulfoxide. It didn't look like much. Colorless. Odorless. A solvent used in industrial cleaning, and once upon a time, in alternative medicine. In the 1960s, some believed DMSO could relieve pain, reduce inflammation, even treat cancer. But by the 90s, it was largely dismissed by the medical community. Still, for people in pain and out of options, it remained a whispered remedy. Especially for someone like Gloria. She had been in the late stages of cervical cancer. Barely able to afford treatment. Her family later confirmed she had been applying DMSO topically, rubbing it into her joints and muscles to ease the agony. She may have even been ingesting it, something strongly advised against. Now, here's where things get strange. In its natural form, DMSO is relatively safe. But under certain conditions, it transforms. When paramedics placed the oxygen mask on Gloria, that rush of oxygen may have caused a rare but documented chemical reaction. The DMSO in her system oxidized, turning into dimethyl sulfone, or DMSO2. Still relatively harmless. But that wasn't the end of it. Under the extreme conditions of defibrillation, the electric current, her elevated body temperature, and the oxygen-rich environment, scientists theorized that the DMSO2 may have converted into something far more sinister, dimethyl sulfate. A compound so toxic, so volatile, that even trace exposure can cause paralysis, convulsions, coma, and death. Dimethyl sulfate is not only dangerous, it's a chemical weapon. It vaporizes at room temperature and is easily absorbed through the skin and lungs. Symptoms mirror exactly what the ER staff experienced that night: shortness of breath, burning eyes, fainting, muscular spasms, neurological effects. Livermore's theory sounded like something from a lab thriller. A chain reaction inside a human body, turning a harmless pain reliever into a vaporized poison. But it matched the timeline. It matched the symptoms. And most disturbingly, it might not have been a one-time accident. Some experts quietly suggested that if the theory was accurate, this could happen again anywhere, to anyone self-medicating with DMSO under similar conditions. Still, not everyone bought the explanation. Some toxicologists remained skeptical. They argued that dimethyl sulfate would have affected more people, more severely. Others pointed out that no such reaction had ever been recorded inside a human body before. At least, not publicly. That's when another theory emerged. One even stranger. One darker. Mass psychogenic illness. Mass hysteria. According to this idea, the fainting, vomiting, and seizures were not caused by exposure, but by fear. That one nurse saw something strange, panicked, and unintentionally triggered a wave of psychosomatic reactions in an already stressed medical staff. After all, hospitals are high-pressure environments. Death isn't rare. Emergencies happen every hour. Is it possible that the fear of contamination, the sheer idea of it, was enough to make people collapse? But that theory had problems, too. You can't hallucinate a chemical odor. You can't convulse from fear alone. And you certainly don't spend 2 weeks in the ICU with liver failure because of panic. No matter which explanation you believed, science or psychology, the facts remain chilling. Gloria Ramirez's body behaved like nothing anyone had seen before or since. Her internal organs were so damaged, the coroner struggled to conduct a full autopsy. Her heart was missing. Her liver was heavily deteriorated. Her blood was discolored. Parts of her body were so chemically unstable, they had to be examined through sealed glass. And to this day, no one knows exactly why. Some believe the Livermore theory was right, but incomplete. That another chemical, something unknown, had been in her system. Maybe something ingested. Maybe something administered to her. But if so, it was never found. Others believe the case was covered up. That the truth, the real truth, was too dangerous to make public. Gloria's family never got closure. They were told it was natural causes, that her cancer had taken her life. But even they questioned it. Her sister said Gloria had seemed scared that week. Paranoid. She mentioned burning sensations in her chest. She complained about a strange chemical taste in her mouth. Something wasn't right. And maybe that's the most terrifying part. That the story ends not with an answer, but with silence. Gloria Ramirez was laid to rest quietly, without fanfare. The hospital returned to business as usual. No one else fell sick. No one ever came forward with new evidence. But the staff who were there that night never forgot. They still talk about it. Late at night. In the break rooms. In lowered voices. The woman who came in dying, and nearly took an entire ER with her. Some call it chemistry. Others call it hysteria. But most just call it a mystery. And one they hope never comes back. The case of Gloria Ramirez never faded, it just slipped underground, into the darker corners of internet forums, late-night medical podcasts, and whispered conversations between emergency room veterans. Because as much as science tried to explain what happened that night, there were still too many unanswered questions. Too many odd details that refused to fit neatly into any one narrative. Like the strange oily film on Gloria's body. None of the chemical tests could say exactly what it was, and no one had seen anything like it before, or since. Or the glittering crystals in her blood. Experts called them particles of mannitol, a sugar-based compound sometimes found in medications. But others disagreed. They claimed the crystals were unlike any pharmaceutical compound they'd handled. Not in color. Not in density. And certainly not in origin. And then there was the smell. Nearly everyone in that trauma bay described it differently. Some said it was like garlic and ammonia. Others, like rotten fruit or metal. One nurse even said it was almost electrical, like ozone after a lightning strike. A smell that settled deep into the skin and stayed there, long after you left the room. But here's the part no one ever made public. Months after the incident, 2 of the affected hospital staff members resigned. Not because they couldn't handle the stress, but because they claimed they still felt it. One described constant vertigo. The sensation that the floor was always tilting beneath her feet. Another said she couldn't be near blood anymore. Even her own. A third moved across the country. Quietly. No interviews. No goodbye. She left behind a single cryptic note in her locker. I think she brought something with her. Some believe what happened to Gloria was a 1 in a billion biological chain reaction, a freak accident that science managed to mostly solve. But others aren't so sure. There were rumors about a shadowy research group that reached out to Riverside General shortly after the case made national news. No names. No agency. Just a series of phone calls asking for access to the blood samples. The body. The clothes. Those samples were never officially released. Even stranger, a portion of Gloria's medical records allegedly vanished from the hospital's database weeks after her death. No explanation. No trace. Was it simple mismanagement? A system glitch? Or something more deliberate? The Ramirez family, for their part, never accepted the official explanation. Her sister, Leticia, later told a local reporter, "We knew she was sick. But we also knew Gloria. She wasn't the kind of person to give up. And she was terrified in those last days. She told me she felt poisoned." That word, poisoned, has haunted the case ever since. Because if Gloria Ramirez was poisoned, then who did it? And why? Some online theorists have connected the dots to experimental chemotherapy trials, black market medications, or even illegal pesticide exposure. Others go darker, talking about clandestine testing, secret bioweapons, or spiritual corruption. The internet is full of rabbit holes. And the longer this mystery remains unsolved, the deeper they go. Even today, nearly 3 decades later, medical students study the Gloria Ramirez case in toxicology classes. But the deeper you dive, the less certain things become. Her autopsy was inconclusive. Her cause of death officially listed as kidney failure from cervical cancer. But no one has ever explained how her presence alone could send 5 healthy professionals to the floor, their bodies convulsing, their lungs burning. No one has repeated the exact chemical chain in a controlled setting. No one has truly recreated the perfect storm of DMSO, oxygen, defibrillation, and unknown compounds that turned Gloria's final moments into a slow-motion catastrophe. And maybe that's the point. Because the truth is, for all our technology, for all our science and medicine, there are still things that can happen inside the human body that we do not understand. There are still mysteries that walk into hospitals, and never walk out. Gloria Ramirez didn't ask to become a legend. She didn't ask to be called the toxic lady, or to be remembered not as a mother or a daughter, but as a medical anomaly. And yet, that's how the world remembers her. But here's what you won't find in the official reports. She loved dancing. Even when she was sick, Gloria would dance with her kids in the living room, music blaring, bald from chemo but smiling anyway. Her favorite song was Eternal Flame by the Bangles. She once told a friend it made her feel like her soul could outlive her body. Maybe it did. So when people talk about the mystery of Gloria Ramirez, the chemicals, the collapse, the science no one can quite prove, maybe they're missing the real story. That sometimes, the body becomes a battlefield. That sometimes, suffering pushes people to dangerous solutions. That sometimes, tragedy defies explanation. And that even in death, one woman could leave a mark so powerful, so toxic, it still lingers in the air. Whatever happened inside Riverside General Hospital that night didn't stay contained. It changed the people who were there. It rewrote medical protocols. And it left behind a question no one has been able to answer. Was Gloria Ramirez a victim of circumstance? Or something far more disturbing? We may never know. If this story left you with more questions than answers, you're not alone. What really happened to Gloria Ramirez? Was it a chemical reaction, a medical anomaly, or something far more sinister? We want to hear what you think. Drop your theories in the comments below. Was this a freak accident, or a cover-up that was never meant to see the light of day? And if you're drawn to the darkest corners of true horror and unsolved crime, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Because here at True Crimes Now, we uncover the stories that others are too afraid to tell. Until next time, stay curious, stay cautious, and remember, not every mystery is meant to be solved.